BuzzzTweet Talk Radio do not own copyright for this copyrighted material, but under Section 107 United States Copyright Office, Copyright Act 1976, this video, the music and content it contains is for education and or entertainment purposes only.
All right, I know people have been sitting there, but I gotta bring this queen up here. BeeSparrow. BeeSparrow. I was keeping my eye on that sparrow sitting over there with me. Come on in. What's up, BeeSparrow?
I can't call it. I cannot call it. This will be my third or fourth time trying to do a live stream talking about the transgender agenda. This article that I came across, it spoke about UPenn, the women's swim team, and how they won't have to compete against transgender men anymore. Now this, like I said, would be my third time trying to do this story. Perhaps I need to go and get my laptop. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and get my laptop so that I can read the story from there. That way, I won't have to worry about my phone cutting off. So bear with me while I go get my laptop and while I search for my article. I'll be right back.
Here we go, making really getting icy zone, flexing, I've been swerving, make it trendy, we look sexy. Here we go, making really getting icy zone, flexing, I've been swerving, make it trendy, we look sexy.
All right, okay, wait a minute now. Let's let's get back to this article. Talking about transgender women having to compete against natural born women. That's what we're talking about this morning. And according to the Washington Examiner, UPenn won't have to worry about that for a minute until the next Leah Thompson come along. Because right now, there are no transgender men to compete. Because Leah Thomas graduated from the Ivy League school. The University of Pennsylvania's female swim team has rid itself of the controversies surrounding transgender swimmer in what could only be described as the oddest collegiate swimming season in history. Next year, when the female swim team begins, the roster will consist entirely of real women. This means that fair competition has returned to the team's women, real actual women. This means there will no longer be more unfair biological advantages by a man over the women he yearns to defeat. Women will no longer be forced to look at the genitalia of a 22-year-old man in the locker room after swimming practice. The European female swimmers will be free and no longer treated like third-class citizens. However, just because they are free doesn't mean they should forget what happened to them. No woman should, and truthfully, no man should either. Sadly, the European female swim team and all female athletes are only free until the next Leah Thomas emerges. They are at the mercy of woke, radical leftist school administrators and the ideologies and cowards of the NCAA, who champion the causes of the woke mob over the rights of college women. Thomas's graduation is just a metaphorical band-aid for female athletes. Unfortunately, it's just a matter of time until the next man who suffers from gender dysphoria wants to swim or compete in any other sport against women, and the people in charge do nothing to stop it. This is really sad. Everyone, according to this article, and I mean everyone, is upset about Leah Thomas swimming with girls. We must continue to rally against the issue. They cannot let up solely because Thomas is gone or it is summertime unless they speak up or continue to challenge this radical status quo. The Leah Thomas situation will invariably repeat itself, and women will continue to be third-class citizens and oppressed by universities under the guise of LGBT equality. So while Penn's female swimmers are free for the moment, the next Leah Thomas is lurking just around the corner, ready to take female roster sports, scholarships, and trophies. How does the NCAA let this happen? How does the NCAA let this happen? Men are naturally stronger than women. So why is it that a transgender woman who is actually a man, how are they allowed to compete against natural women? It's not fair at all. A trans woman is a woman who was assigned male at birth. Trans women have a female gender identity and may experience gender dysphoria, and they may transition. This process commonly includes hormone replacement therapy and sometimes sex reassignment surgery, which can bring relief and resolve feelings of gender dysphoria. There are so many transgender women actors in Hollywood. Y'all probably think they are women. I keep telling men these days it's very, very, very hard to tell the difference.
Oh, man.
It's very hard to tell the difference these days. So y'all do know that there's a difference between a transgender and a transsexual woman, right? So, transgender and transsexual are commonly confused terms that both refer to gender identity. Transgender is a broader, more inclusive category that includes all individuals who do not identify with the gender that corresponds to the sex that they were assigned at birth. Transsexual is a more narrow category that includes individuals who desire to physically transition to the sex that corresponds with the gender that which they identify. Note that the word gender is usually used to refer to social and cultural roles, while sex refers to physical attributes. All transsexual persons are transgender. However, not all transgender people are transsexual. Transgender women are sometimes referred to as trans women. Some may also be known as male to female transsexuals. MTFs, transsexual women, trans girls, or T-girls. The term transsexual originated as a medical term and is sometimes considered prerogative. It is always best to ask a person which term is preferred. Listen, if you were born a man, you're still a man in my opinion. If you were born a woman, you're still a woman in my opinion. You're going to die a man, you're going to die a woman. You still have a man's attributes, even though you think that you are a woman. I just will be glad when the Most High settle this once and for all. It's becoming a bit too much. And I think it's a mental issue. I think men that want to be women and women that want to be men, I think it's a mental issue. And y'all do know that there is a history of transgender rights in the United States of this here America, right? History is replete with examples of transgender people. The Indian, the Israeli eunuchs, the Roman Imperia, all fell into this category. Early English colonists in Africa like Andrew Battelle even described the Mbangala tribe as beastly for living with female or feminine people assigned male at birth, who were kept among the wives. While trans individuals have existed for centuries, the national movement to give them civil rights in the United States has only recently taken place. Again, while trans individuals have existed for centuries, the national movement to give them civil rights in the United States of this here America has only recently taken place. This article taken from thoughtco.com. The ratification of the 14th Amendment, 1868. The 14th Amendment in the United States Constitution is ratified. The equal protection and due process clauses in Section 1 would implicitly include transgender persons as well as any other identifiable group. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. While the Supreme Court has not fully embraced the amendment's implications for transgender rights, these clauses will presumably form the basis of future rulings. The term transsexual is first used in 1923. A German physician coins the term transsexual in a published journal article titled The Intersexual Constitution, Die Intersexually Constitution. Despite the continued use of transsexual in some medical settings, and even personal use by some trans people, the term is widely considered to be offensive. It is safest to use the terms trans or transgender as adjectives to refer to trans people. For example, trans man, trans non-binary, transgender woman. Transgender and transsexual are not synonyms. Transgender is an umbrella term that refers to people who don't identify with the gender associated with the sex assigned to them at birth. Transsexual is used by medical professionals to discuss trans people who do undergo medical transition. However, not all transgender people pursue medical transitions. The term trans may be used to refer to members of transgender communities regardless of medical transition status. The onset of the hormone therapy in 1949, San Francisco physician Harry Benjamin pioneers the use of hormone therapy in the treatment of trans patients. Benjamin was interested in the fields of anti-aging and sexual identity, believing that it was possible for individuals to feel as if they had been assigned the wrong sex at birth. He advised one such patient to have a sex reassignment surgery in Europe. Doubtful that psychotherapy could help patients who felt this way, Benjamin advocated for hormone therapy and surgery to help trans people live their true gender. A German doctor. A San Francisco physician. Not Germany. San Francisco he was from. Remember back in the day now, San Francisco was the gay capital of the world. So Christine Jurgensen is denied a marriage license in 1959. A trans woman is denied a New York marriage license based on the sex she was assigned at birth. Her fiancé, Howard Knox, was fired from his job when rumors of their attempt to marry became public. Jurgensen used the publicity her case generated to become a spokeswoman and activist for the trans community. Remember the Stonewall riots in 1969? The 1994 International March on the United Nations, Stonewall, to attend the human rights of lesbian and gay people. That was a banner that they was marching with in 1994. But, the Stonewall riots, which arguably sparked the modern gay rights movement, is sparked by Marsha P. Johnson throwing the first brick and initial scuffles with police. Marsha, having co-founded groups such as STAR, Street Transvite Action Revolutionaries, with fellow LGBTQ activist Sylvia Rivera, will become one of the nation's most radical champions of trans rights. In MT versus JT in 1976, the Superior Court of New Jersey rules that trans people may marry on the basis of their gender identity, regardless of their assigned sex at birth. This landmark case found that the plaintiff, MT, was entitled to receive spousal support after her husband, JT, left her and stopped supporting her financially. The court decided that JT's marriage was valid and she deserved support, in part because she'd had sex reassignment surgery. And Ann Hopkins fights her employer in 1989. Ann Hopkins is denied a promotion on basis that she is not, in the opinion of management, sufficiently feminine. She sues the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court rules that gender stereotyping can form the basis of a Title VII sex discrimination complaint. In the words of Justice Brenham, a plaintiff need only demonstrate that an employer who has allowed a discriminatory motive to play a part in an employment decision must prove by clear and convincing evidence that it would have made the same decision in the absence of discrimination and that petitioner had not carried his burden. So the Minnesota Human Rights Act in 1993 becomes the first state, Minnesota becomes the first state to ban employment discrimination on the basis of perceived gender identity, with the passage of the Minnesota Human Rights Act. In the same year, trans man Brandon Teena is raped and murdered, a tragedy that inspires the film Boys Don't Cry in 1999 and prompts a national movement to incorporate anti-transgender hate crimes into future hate crimes legislation. Wow.
You're listening to B Sparrow on BuzzTweet Talk Radio.
So in 1999, in Littleton versus Prang, the Texas Court of Appeals rejects the logic of New Jersey's MT versus JT 1976 and refuses to issue marriage license to opposite-sex couples in which one partner is trans. A medical malpractice lawsuit led to this case in the courts, in which the plaintiff, Christy Lee Littleton, sued her husband's doctor over his death. The courts, however, ruled that since Littleton was assigned male at birth, her marriage was invalid and she couldn't file suit as her husband's widow.
So he was a woman, but his husband passed away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to get the benefits.
Mm-hmm. I need that too.
Oh, you know.
The door is locked. Me and Candace got locked out the other day. So, good morning, co-host in the same room.
Look, I ain't trying to get locked out.
Janoelle Gardiner's inheritance in 2001. So, the Kansas Supreme Court refuses to allow trans woman Janoelle Gardiner to inherit her husband's property. The court ruled that because Gardiner wasn't assigned female at birth, her subsequent marriage to a man was invalid. Employment Non-Discrimination Act in 2007. These are all leading to where we are today. Gender identity protections are controversially stripped from the 2007 version of the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. But the updates to the legislation ultimately fail. Future versions of ENDA beginning in 2009 include gender identity protections. Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act in 2009. The Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crime Prevention Act, signed by President Barack Hussein Obama, allows for federal investigation of bias-motivated crimes based on gender identity in cases where local law enforcement is unwilling to act. Later the same year, Obama issues an executive order banning the executive branch from discriminating on basis of gender identity in employment decisions. It took a black man to bring these things into law. Yes, they used the black man to bring these laws into fruition for the LGBT community. And these laws have been in the making since forever. There's a history of transgender rights in the United States of this here America. There is a history of transgender rights in the United States of this here America. So once again, we're talking about transgender women competing against natural-born women. The NCAA has allowed this to happen in the sports world. You had Liam Thomas at UPenn competing and winning scholarships, winning trophies against the natural-born women. How did we let this happen? Why can't they have their own sports amongst one another instead of competing against the natural women? It's just not fair, y'all. It's definitely not fair. So let me know what y'all think about this. Like, comment, subscribe, not just to my YouTube channel, but come on over here to my podcast on Spreaker.com, BuzzTweet Talk Radio. Follow me there, and in return, I'll do the same. It's your girl, BeeSparrow, BuzzTweet Talk Radio. Holla at y'all, girl. Okay? Okay.
BuzzTweet.